You know what? I believe in taking suggestions, so we'll try a little advertising and see how it goes. Okay.
Huge news from a shareholder meeting today. Elon Musk confirmed that Tesla will now start advertising. He also addressed the rumor that said Elon Musk is going to step down as the CEO of Tesla. He addressed it directly. So let's take a look.
There's some rumors that you're thinking about stepping down as CEO. Please say it ain't so.
It ain't so. Yeah. I think Tesla's going to play an important role in AI and AGI, and I think I need to oversee that to make sure it's good. That's a thorny problem if there ever was one. Generally, people do not, or very few people, even in the AI community, do not appreciate just how much capability Tesla has in AI. It's by far the most advanced real-world AI. There's no one even close. And reality has the most degrees of freedom. So I got to make sure that's good.
This is really good news, although yesterday already I said I don't think that rumor has much merit behind it that Elon Musk is going to step down as the CEO of Tesla, because he sent this email saying that he will approve every single hire at Tesla going forward for now, which means that Elon is going to be doing a lot more of CEO kind of work instead of doing less of it. But the best part here is that not only is Elon staying at Tesla, it appears to me that he is planning to stay here for many years. I would say at least 5 years or more, like maybe 10 years, because the way he was talking about it during the shareholder meeting, it seems like he wants to make sure that the Tesla bot is going to be in good hands. And to me, that is minimum 5 years away from now, and possibly more if you're talking about bigger scale, 10 years from now, or maybe even a lot more. Elon said that there could be 10 billion or 20 billion bots. It's going to take a long time to get to that number. And there are many people that invest into every company that they can that Elon is in charge of. And if that's your strategy, then you know you will be buying a lot more Tesla stuff because Elon is not going anywhere.
Remember that the economy moves in cycles. And we've had a very long period of upcycle. The next 12 months will be, I think, difficult for everyone. And I think, when Berkshire Hathaway had their annual meeting, Warren and Charlie actually said, like, hey, this year, the Berkshire companies are going to make less money. They're very well-run organizations, and I think that's just generally true for the economy. So, it's also important to remember that there are good times and there are dark times, but then the good times follow the dark times. So, my advice would be, don't look at the markets for the next 12 months. If there's a dip, buy the dip. And I think you will not be sorry, because there's just generally a sort of there's an economic cycle to things, but things come back up. So my guess is tough times for a year. Like I said, just my guess. But then Tesla will emerge stronger than ever, and the long term, if you say like net present value of future cash flows, will be incredible, in my opinion.
It's not often that you can take advice directly from Elon Musk. Well, in this case, you can if you just buy the dip. I buy Tesla stock every single month, but if we do have a bigger dip from here on, then I will have to cut my spending and load up on more Tesla stock shares.
I really think that some of the features that you highlighted here, like the over-the-air airbag deployments of improving features, the safety features, are great things that we could be advertising. I know you've heard this many times before. I know you have. But
Sorry, go ahead, yeah.
$525 off every car this year is half of Netflix's advertising budget. $1,000 is the entire Netflix advertising budget, and I see their ads everywhere. Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this. I just talked to Gordo, the Tesla bear, and he's still talking about 2016 New York Times pieces. These people are in the past, man.
That's like 7 years ago at this point.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah. It's actually, I talked to a lot of people, and they still think that like Teslas are like super expensive. And like, no, actually, the starting price for a Tesla is below the average auto price in the US. It's like, and that's a good thing. I mean, I think it's good that it's that way, you know? Like, our goal was always to make cars that are affordable to the general public. So I hear you. I mean, I think, and it's indeed ironic that, you know, Twitter is like highly dependent on advertising. So, you know, here I am. It's like, you know, never used advertising really before, and now have a company that's highly dependent on advertising. So, I guess I should say advertising is awesome, and everyone should do it. But I think I hear your sort of larger point, which is that there are amazing features and functionality about Teslas that people just don't know about. So, yeah. And although there's obviously a lot of people that follow, like, say, the Tesla account and the you know, my account, whatever, on Twitter, to some degree, it is preaching to the choir, and the choir is already convinced. So I think what you're saying does have some merit, and you know what? I believe in taking suggestions, so we'll try a little advertising and see how it goes. Okay. Okay. All right. I wasn't expecting that level of enthusiasm. But okay, it sounds like our shareholders, if I read between the lines, subtle as it is, are saying we should probably do some advertising. Okay, very well. All right.
Out of all of the announcements made at the shareholder meeting, that chair from the crowd was one of the biggest, if not the biggest chair. On April 26, I tweeted this. I saw some people imply that Elon is against advertising, and by the way, he is not against advertising. If or when he thinks it's appropriate for Tesla, it will be done. Elon tweeted this about 3 years ago. At some point, we should probably do advertising as our communication entertainment and to support high quality media. And probably the most subtle hint that Elon is not against advertising is the fact that he owns Twitter, and Twitter relies on advertising very heavily. Here's my take on this. I made millions from advertising, so obviously advertising works. The first time Tesla uses advertising, it will probably work quite well, and then over time it starts to lose some of its effectiveness, but overall it is still effective. But just the first time you launch a campaign, that's where usually you get by far the absolute best results, unless you just made a bad campaign, which also happens. But in the long term, I think it makes the most sense to get the price lower first, to a point where you don't really want to lower them anymore, and once you reach that point, then advertise. Because if you first start advertising before you reach that point where you think, oh, you know what, we can actually still drop the price by quite a bit more. If you haven't reached that point yet, when you advertise, it is going to be quite a bit more difficult to convert these potential buyers into actual buyers because the product is just quite expensive still. Another huge benefit of dropping prices first and then advertising later is strangling the competitors in this whole process, because if our margins are insanely huge, let's say 30-40%, then other competitors look at that and say, oh, you know, maybe we can't make 30%, but we can sure make 10%. But if Tesla drops the price by 10% or 20%, and now the competitors cannot make a profit, then a lot of them are just going to give up completely on even trying. So if you watch every single video of mine, you know that generally I like advertising because I made millions from advertising. But in Tesla's case specifically, I want Tesla to be in a very good competitive position where we are destroying and strangling all of the competitors because our pricing is lower than theirs. And once we reach that point where Tesla is no longer really willing to drop the prices lower, then we advertise. And it seems to me this is exactly what's happening. And the competition has been strangled quite a bit now. Ford has negative 102% margins. The inventory for a Ford Mach-E is abnormally high in the US, 154 days of supply. So perhaps we have done enough damage already to our competitors, which makes a stronger case for advertising now instead of later. I mean, you look at Lucid's average selling price, which is $106,000, but it loses $550,000 per every single car sold. How much more damage can we do to them? Unless they get more funding from the Saudis, it doesn't seem like they are going to stick around for a long time. There's also a lot of debate about what should be the lowest margins for Tesla. For me, before we actually get to big scale, I'm okay with 0, but I'm not comfortable losing a whole lot of money in the process, but I'm okay if we don't make money. Many investors want the gross margins to stay at 20%, some maybe 10%, but I think the majority is around 20-ish%. But the thing is, on some models, Tesla is already basically making no money. For example, the standard range Model 3 in China is making 0 money for Tesla, according to Troy. Based on his calculations, the average selling price in Q1 for Model 3 was about $30,000. On that vehicle, I'm not really willing to go much lower than 0. It is important to also realize that Elon said, we'll try advertising. He didn't say, yeah, from now on, we will always be doing advertising and it will be our top priority. He didn't say anything like that. He just said, yeah, we'll try some advertising. But if it's done right, it will absolutely, definitely work to a point where the backlog is likely to come back if that advertising is done right. One of the most effective ways to advertise is when you advertise things that are clearly beneficial that people were not aware of before. For example, that Teslas are the safest vehicles. And if you can combine that with an emotional story that you tell in your advertisement, you have this killer combination that will make a lot of sales. And Teslas have so many features that many people are not even aware of. So it's not really difficult to make a great ad advertising Teslas. And I think most importantly, Elon willing to do advertising shows that we are reaching a point where Tesla is no longer willing to drop the prices much further. Keep in mind that specifically only the Model 3 rear-wheel drive within China is making basically 0 money. All other models everywhere else still make somewhat healthy profits, especially in the US. So while technically there's more room to cut still, I think this signals that Elon would prefer to advertise and create demand this way instead of trying to cut the prices by a lot going forward.
So first, congratulations on your decision to try advertising. We all want Tesla to pass Apple in market cap.
I didn't realize people wanted it that much. Okay.
It's good that a lot of people agree. So earlier this year, you cut prices on everything, 15, 20%. More recently, you've been raising prices on Model Y, Model S, Model X. And can you just talk about the pricing strategy on Model Y going forward and keep it separate from the decision to bring out the next-gen vehicles that we all agree is going to, blow the doors off on volume. But just on Model Y, it's the best-selling product in the world. Can you just talk about strategy of pricing going forward on that?
I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, we see what the demand is, and then we adjust pricing to meet the demand. Now, the thing is that what happens with other car makers is that they're actually constantly adjusting pricing on cars. It's just not obvious. In the case of Tesla, you can see immediately when there's a price change that occurs because we don't have any intermediaries, don't have any dealers. There's no manufacturer's suggested retail price. But the reality is actually at car dealers, the prices are changing radically. I mean, last year there were significant premiums above MSRP at sort of the conventional car dealer, so you'd pay above MSRP last year. And then this year, I think things are below MSRP or close to it. And then the manufacturers will then also offer incentives. So what's actually happening are very big price shifts by other car makers. They're just not obvious. Whereas with Tesla, it's obvious. And this is necessary because demand fluctuates a lot. So something's got to be done to achieve a supply-demand clearing point for volume. So just people are reacting to something that's obvious as opposed to saying, oh, yes, every car company does this all the time. Tesla is no exception. That's the actual reality.
Based on that answer, it does not really seem that cutting prices further is not a core part of Tesla's strategy. It appears that it will continue to be a core part of Tesla's strategy, at least on models and trims that still have healthy profit margins. In other words, this change of moving away from price cuts and moving towards advertising may take some time to play out. And likely Tesla may use both of these going forward. Elon also did an interview with CNBC right after this, and I imagine the interviewer asked him a lot more about advertising and things like that, and maybe price cutting. So I'm gonna watch that as well, and maybe Elon said a lot more things over there that are going to be relevant to this. So this is not my final opinion on this yet. I'm just sharing my thoughts as I am going through everything. But it does seem that Elon is committed to advertising, at least to trying it. In the US, the Model Y inventory has gone down again, and I do expect another price increase. And remember, this is after the Model Y price has been increased, although just by a little bit, $250. So I think there will be an increase in price again. It doesn't seem that Tesla prefers a backlog over a price increase. I think that makes sense also because if you have no backlog, that means you create more demand because people can just walk into a showroom and get the vehicle that same day, which in theory should create more demand. So I am certainly expecting a price increase for the Model Y, which will also help the Model 3 sales because in relative terms, the Model 3 then is going to be cheaper than the Model Y. Right now, the Model Y in the US, it just makes so much more sense than the Model 3. We have quite a few ships unloading in Europe right now, and inventory therefore is going to spike. And because it's already on a higher side, I do expect possible further promotions or some sort of incentives, which could also be maybe price cuts as well. The inventory in Europe will need some sort of push to get it all sold unless Tesla is comfortable having a much higher inventory level this quarter. But we'll see what's going to happen over the next 5 days as all of these ships unload. Sales in the daily reporting countries in Europe so far look really strong compared to the previous quarter, so I wouldn't be worried about that right now. And if there is going to be an advertising campaign, well, you sort of do want more inventory because that will just vanish probably if the campaign is good. This video explains why Tesla board members are not buying more Tesla stock. My name is Matt Postis. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.